Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. My name is Anita Satyamurthy, and I run the customer success initiative at WorkSpan. I'm really excited to host this session with Eugene Banks. Eugene is the head of partnerships and channels at Ericsson, very seasoned exec with more than 20 years of experience managing channels, alliances, and partner programs. And before Ericsson, Eugene worked at CA Technologies for almost 17 years. And before that, with Oracle and Tech Data. So thanks, Eugene, for your time today, and really looking forward to this session.
Thanks, Anita. I am as well.
Let's dive right in. So let's start talking about your role at Ericsson, where you're leading the partner ecosystem organization. And how do these partners fit into the overall Ericsson strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm responsible for our partnerships and channels business at Ericsson, where we work, jointly with our communication service partners, to leverage, this ecosystem that's out there to drive the growth and adoption, of our information and communication technology. So the big question is, what does that mean exactly? So if you think about Ericsson traditionally as a company, we manufacture, technology or information communication technologies that we take to the marketplace. So like 5G. So I'm sure everybody's seen that in the commercials. If you've been watching football, I know I have. So then the question becomes, how do we work with our CSPs, to understand their customer outcomes that they have within the marketplace to drive the adoption of that technology? And then how do we leverage partners in the ecosystem to do that? Partners, bring a lot of value, within the marketplace where they have offerings, they have services, and they also are looking to figure out, how they, solve these customer outcomes. But the question becomes, how do we do that jointly? And that's what I'm responsible for within Ericsson, is really bringing that together so we can jointly solve those problems.
Awesome, sounds great. So Eugene, you mentioned one of the initiatives was to drive the transformational shift between, traditional operating systems and the IT environments, and doing this by the adoption of the 5G technology focused on the partner ecosystem. So what does this really mean for Ericsson and the partners? How do you balance, where Ericsson plays and where do you bring in partners to kind of collaborate on joint solutions for your customers?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we go to market with our service providers. The marketplace is at an inflection point between operational technology and information technology. And it's really being driven not only by, how you leverage the adoption of 5G, but IoT, within the marketplace. So, customers are looking at, how do they, solve some of these challenges that they have at their customer edge, right? How do they make sense of this with the information and data, right, at the platform level? And then how do they, make use of that information, right, then within their local enterprise? And this is really, bringing us together to figure out how we begin to solve, as I mentioned before, those complex outcomes, but by understanding, how our technology, working with the service providers can actually, help them better make sense of that information, right, that they have within their environments.
Absolutely. And Ericsson recently launched a very innovative approach to build these solutions with the 5I approach. Can you share a little bit about this approach and how you're using it with your partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm sure most people on the call are familiar with the crossing the chasm, model. So how you, bring technology to market and you leverage those early adopters so that you can get over that hump, you can get over that chasm, right? And then the thought process is that, those that are late adopters, right, or what they call laggards will then join. So we put in place what we call our 5 Eyes process. Where we actually, ideate, and we look at all the way from initiation to incorporation, how do we bring new technology and solution with our service providers into the marketplace? And then what is the process that we go through to, incubate an idea, right? Ideate on that idea, and then get it to a minimal viable product.
Awesome. And there are some specific programs with this initiative, right? Like your market area, North America, the MANA programs, where there's the internal first and then the external, where you focus on internal, you're focusing on identifying your TAMs, your partners, your channels, and then you prioritize it. And from an external perspective, you're kind of inviting your partners, developing joint solutions. Can you shed some light on these type of programs that you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, once we have the offering that we want to bring to market, and we've now, brought it through to incorporations, and the question is, how do we work with our service providers to drive, that adoption? So obviously, dealing with IoT, that is complex. There are a lot of challenges within the market, and we can't solve it alone. So we realize that we have to partner, with other companies within the ecosystem, to solve those challenges. And then when you have multiple companies, right, when you're doing all this partner, to partner type collaboration, how do you actually do this in an effective way? How do you manage that, as a business? And that's been one of the challenges, right, that we faced at Ericsson, right, and with our customers in order to be able to do that. So, we have programs in place. So our partner programs that allow us, to drive, volume, with partners and our service providers to manage those opportunities, as we're solving those IoT outcomes within the marketplace.
And with these unique challenges that you face, kind of with the focus on IoT, right? It's become a huge part of how we communicate and how we do business. What are some of the best practices that have come out of this initiative?
Oh yeah, so as I mentioned before, it's really about how you co-create. So as a part of that Five Eyes process, you want to understand what your customers' needs are. So you want to be able to bring everybody together, not only Ericsson and the service provider, but the partners we're collaborating with and their customers, to really get a good understanding of what challenges that they're having within their environment. And then once you understand those challenges, how do we solve for them? And what's the approach that we take? And then how do we collaborate? And that's the big thing, right? You have to have the ability to be able to bring, all those thoughts and ideas, into one location in order to be able to solve for that problem. So we structure programs, right, that allow us to drive those co-creation. We've adopted, tools within, our environment like WorkSpan we're looking at right now, to also be able to solve for those complex challenges that we have out there. But with that being said, I think that, the biggest thing that we've done, right, is realizing that partnering has to be built into the DNA of our company, and we have to have the right tools, processes, and programs in order to be able to be successful with the adoption of our product in the marketplace.
Awesome. And the next question is really interesting to me. Something we talk a lot about 5G and IoT. And if you were to describe what 5G and IoT is to a 5-year-old, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so I think it was a 5-year-old. I think if I told a 5-year-old, I said, hey, if you could pick up your Fisher Price phone, right now, and you could ask it a question, what would it be? If you could ask your phone if it could connect to the rest of your toys, would that be of value to you? Right? That's what I'd ask that 5-year-old. And if the 5-year-old said yes, but why, right? Why do I want this phone to connect to the rest of my toys? And I would say, what if I told you could do a lot more with it? What if you could do more with that phone, right? And just talking to no one on the other end, but your toy spoke back to you. That's a good business idea.
Yeah. A great idea. And I don't think that day is probably too far away with the way, technology is progressing.
Exactly.
What's next for the program? What are the growth opportunities here that gets you excited about being in this space?
Oh, I think, it's limitless. When I think about 5G and how, customers are looking at, how they can leverage it, within their environment, whether, it's in the industrial space and they're, trying to solve for some of the, mission critical things that they have as a part of their manufacturing process to reduce downtime and cycle time, within their environment, or as companies trying to bring more connectivity, indoors because of all the mobile users and device users, that they have and the types of applications that are being developed that can take better advantage, right, of more low latency connectivity. There's definitely, just a whole plethora of outcomes and challenges that we can solve for. That just excite me every day. I wake up, thinking, what are we actually going to solve for today? And it's limitless.
Yeah, definitely an exciting space to be in, considering, how things are progressing. Do you have any final words of wisdom or key takeaways that you would like to share with our audience today?
Definitely. I think, as you're looking to figure out how you work with partners, I would think always in terms of the customer, so always start with the customer first, right? And the challenges and the problems that your customers are having. And then ideate from there, right? As to, how you'll solve for those challenges, what the solution will be, and then who you'll work with, right? So who are those partners, that'll help, provide that additional value, for the customer, of course, as well, right? As your company.
Awesome. Thank you, Eugene. I think Chip, we have some time to answer questions.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Eugene. We do have some questions that have come in. I think one is, well, a couple of them are pretty interesting. So one from Rob says, just simply, what do you measure, Eugene? So how do you measure? So you're working with a lot of, ecosystem partners and bringing solutions to market. What are the measure? How do you measure that? How do you declare success, or how do you track what's happening between partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with our partners, as a company, we're measuring, the adoption of our network build outs, right? As I mentioned that we have with our service providers, and obviously our partners, contribute, to that growth, whether it's joint technology we're using from them or we're leveraging their capabilities on behalf of the service providers, right? To deploy those networks in our technology. So we measure, the volume, and adoption, right, rate, of our network technology around the world as a result of how these partners are being successful.
Great. So another question is from Jaya, and it's a little bit longer. So what is your take on security ecosystems with current situations that we are in and zero trust becoming a major buzzword, protecting workplace, workload, and workforce? What's your take on this?
In terms of security ecosystems, well, first, I think from a security perspective, yeah, that's very important. We have to be thoughtful. And you think about Ericsson as a company, and also, what our customers are doing, the service providers, we're definitely on the cutting edge, right? Around information and things that we're working on, and how we share information between each other, and then what we, launch, within the marketplace, as well as some of the customers that we deal with. So we have to be very thoughtful around, what information we share, how we share it, and where we share it, right? So, any tools, platforms, or processes that we put in place, have to take in consideration, all the security protocols and things that are out there to ensure that not only our information, is safe, but our customers' information is safe as well.
That's great. Good. Eugene, Anita, thank you for taking the time and for sharing your thoughts, Eugene, on the incredible ecosystem around Ericsson, and you have a big job.